Eric Bischoff, is he a heel or is he a babyface? Now, it's become very confusing because Eric Bischoff walks around the Impact Zone like he's a heel. He likes giving out orders and basically being an evil guy, and we judge that by his actions, some of the matches he's made, and he certainly hasn't been pro babyface over the last few weeks. But this week, Eric Bischoff got into the ring looking for cheers, and indeed he got some of those cheers. Eric Bischoff, is he good, is he bad? Will we ever know?
Yeah, I think he's trying to work both angles here, and it's a bit but you see the heel side of him, the way he dealt with Tara in that backstage segment, telling her to get her ass back to the ring, and then you see him marking out for RVD in the opening segment, and you gotta wonder where he's at and what's the beef, Bischoff.
Hogan and Bischoff, every other week they're either playing babyface or they're playing heel. When it first started, there was absolutely no way of telling which guy was which. I mean, we had Hogan coming out to the ring. One minute he's looking for cheers, the next minute he's telling a top babyface he can't do this or that. What is the actual decision to be made? This is what I've really disliked about Hogan and Bischoff on TNA, is that everything seems to be so rushed. Now, you can't tell me that on a TNA Impact where Bischoff appears 3 times that there weren't serious rewrites to the script. Maybe Russo was pulling an all-nighter. I'm not sure, but whatever went on, I think the scripts have been really, really rushed because nobody says, okay, let's put Bischoff on in 3 angles. And if you want to know who those were with, he was with Mick Foley, he was also with Hogan, and he was with Jarrett. That was 3-4 weeks ago. So like I say, those guys are a combination of babyface and heel, so it's impossible to tell. But like I say, he was in there this week, the fans were popping, and he has this top 10 deal where he's trying to work that we fans have an influence. And indeed, apparently they said this week that TNAWrestling.com's poll had some influence on Hogan and Bischoff's decision. Is it some or is it all?
Yeah, again, it just goes to show it gets so messy there sometimes with the writing, and you see it constantly where they start these little angles and little segments that you might see for 1 week, and then the next week it's dropped and you don't see it again. Those backstage segments in that little office where Hogan normally takes a seat, and sometimes Bischoff's been in there. We saw the Jarrett angle and the flipping burgers and the cleaning the toilets and stuff. Where the hell did that go? It lasted what, and then Jarrett's back in an angle with Sting, and Bischoff's out of the situation there, and there's constantly revolving little promo segments that, you know, you put him with one person 1 week and then the next week they change him around, and then he's, like you say, marking out for somebody 1 week, and then he's playing the heel, and then he's playing the baby face, and at the end of the day it's just all about him, and you know, we kind of thought that we kind of had the end of it where he was off TV and wasn't in so many of those on stage promos or whatever, but it's all back and very relevant, I think, this week.
This week more than ever, Eric Bischoff almost tried to take a few back steps and win the fans back. But in contrast to that, we've given out about Eric and his Facebook. Of course, Eric has been very vocal recently, and this week he asked fans to basically, if you're sick of hearing what he says, get off his Facebook. And you know what? I did it immediately. I deleted his Facebook from my page, got rid of it, because, you see, I don't think he understands. Before he got in control or in power in TNA, and in fact, when he initially started, I actually was a fan of Eric Bischoff. All that turned me against Eric was, like I say, too many angles with him involved, and then his real kind of, I think, cheek on Facebook when he starts talking about internet wrestling community and how that represents only 5% of the fans. That's a load of bullshit, because if you are on the internet and you like TNA, you're part of that internet wrestling community. But as I've mentioned, he has now requested any fans who are sick of what he's saying, get off. I did it immediately, and I'll never ever, hopefully, hear anything about him on Facebook again.
Yeah, he's tough work, and he is a cheeky monkey when it comes to his Facebook replies, because the real fans know what they want, and I think he's just afraid of the truth most of the time and always thinks he's right, and He does constantly put them down, and these are the people that are watching the product. So you can just imagine at the end of the day how many people he's actually turning away. And these are proper fans who know what works and what doesn't work, I think. And I speak for probably most people in the chat room when I say that. Where compared to what he thinks is your wrestling audience and whatnot, the casual fans who, tune in once every 4 or 5 weeks and maybe turn off after an hour or so,
I think that's very accurate. He has possibly, maybe he doesn't really realise this, maybe it takes him a while to understand that internet wrestling fans are the audience. TNA is a cult program. It's not a program watched by mainstream. It doesn't have the audiences to say that yet. If you ask the average person on the street, have they heard of WWE? Of course. Have they heard of TNA? They might say tits and ass. I think that's about all the common man might know. But like I say, I'm sick of Eric, and I will never hear a word of his banter ever again. And I'm sure he's affected the ratings. He has certainly annoyed me enough that I've sort of thought, well, will I watch TNA? Nah, I don't want to see Eric